My name is Asif Durrani, and I am Senior Business Account Manager here with TSYS. I am looking after Middle East, Pakistan regions. And in our today presentation, I will take you through the key concept about the building customer satisfaction and loyalty around 3D Secure. I'm sure most of you are already aware about the 3D Secure, what is it all about, what are the benefits, and then what are the key concepts behind the 3D Secure. But in today's presentation, I will not be talking much about the threats and what can go wrong when we talk about the 3D Secure, because we have already heard quite many threats, quite many fraudulent attempts which can go around if you are not using a 3D Secure e-commerce transaction, and what are the negative side of not going with a 3D Secure. So in our today's sessions, in next 30 minutes, I will be taking you through the key elements which could drive a 3D Secure by bringing loyalty to your card base. And as per my opinion, the way I have looked into the overall 3D Secure concept is that the first thing that we have to talk about is to eliminate the already perceived threat, because we have already developed quite many threats around the internet e-commerce transactions. So the first steps toward driving the loyalty for the e-commerce 3D Secure is to elimination of the perceived threats, and secondly, to build retention around the 3D Secure modules. So in next couple of minutes, I will be discussing more about these two elements, about the retention and the threat elimination, and how we can bring loyalty to it. Today's agenda has been divided into main 3 sessions that I will be taking you through. I will start with a brief overview about the 3D Secure, how it is all about, and I will also take you through the brief overview about the Middle East market. Then in a later part of session, I will take you through the key concept about how we can bring the loyalty to your portfolio by elimination of perceived threat, and how we can build retention around 3D Secure. So let's start with a brief overview about the 3D Secure. As we all know, the 3D Secure is a card authentication and anti-fraud protocol which has been developed by the Visa and MasterCard to bring an added level of security for the card not present transactions. What does that mean by the added level of security? Which means when a cardholder is doing a transaction over internet, he will be prompted for a security question through the standard password or OTP, the data which is not embossed, printed, or anywhere available on the cards, which brings the added level security to the transaction. Secondly, in a more layman and a more common terminology, it is more similar to the way the cardholder do a transaction at ATMs. Like the cardholder goes over the ATMs, he enters the cards and enter the amount and then enter the PIN. So entering the PIN is like an authentication given to the cardholder by the issuer. So every transaction which is done on the internet is authorized by the issuer. Similarly, when I will take you through the 3D Secure in more detail, you will see how the cardholder is verified by the respective issuing bank during the internet transactions. Before proceeding to the 3D Secure, let me give you a quick overview about the Middle East market. What is the landscape of the Middle East market for the e-commerce transactions, and what is the potential behind it? When we talk about the GCC volume, the GCC total volume is around 3.3 billion, which is significant volumes. However, saying this, there is still potential to multiple this volumes, as not many of these countries are actively using internet for the e-commerce transactions. Out of the GCC, the major share that we see is from the UAE, which contribute approximately 1.9 billion, which is 60% of the total GCC volume, which is followed by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. When we look on the more detailed statistics, talking about the UAE, we see the average spend per user is the highest in UAE as compared to the rest of the GCC countries. But interestingly, in the Saudi Arabian market, the internet user penetration is higher among any other country. So you can understand the potential which is lying with not only with the Saudi Arabia market, but the remaining GCC country, because they are already active on the internet. They are using the internet for different social activity. They are already on the web, but they are not doing an e-commerce transactions. So we just need a further drive so that we can bring this internet user towards the e-commerce transactions. And one more important thing that I would just like to share with you, that when we talk about the internet e-commerce adaptivity and then going for the e-commerce transaction, the average median age in the GCC is 28 years, as compared to the rest of the world, where when we talk about the US, where it's 35, on Europe, and where it is 30, and in Japan, where it's 45 average median age. So still, there are more younger population over here in the GCC market, which we can convert for the e-commerce transactions. So the idea of giving this slide over here is to give you an overview about the total potential that we can capture by converting the existing internet user and the bank card for the e-commerce transactions. And the next step that I want to take you through before I come on the main essence of the presentation about how we can eliminate the threat and go for the building loyalty around the portfolio, I will give you a quick overview about how 3D Secure, because it's important to understand how the 3D Secure functionality work and how it is different from the standard e-commerce transactions. So just to give you a quick overview about how the 3D Secure transaction works. We are all aware about the normal internet transaction. So I will first quickly give you an overview about internet transaction. This is a standard e-commerce card not present transactions. If you see on the left-hand side is the issuer domain, and on the right-hand side is the acquirer domain. It's a simple internet card transaction when the cardholder goes and shops at any online merchant. He enters the card details, which include card number, expiry date, and CVV2. The transaction goes through internet, then it goes to merchant sends it to the respective acquiring bank, and the transaction is authorized by the issuing bank based on the cardholder card not present details. And the response goes back to the issuer. One important thing that I will request you to look into is that there is no direct authentication by the cardholder and between the issuing bank, which this element is missing over there. And secondly, there is no role of the interoperability domains. There is no check or there is no security element which were conducted during the interoperability domain. And that makes the key unique feature of the 3D Secure. When we talk about the 3D Secure, it includes the security checks at the issuer domain, interoperability domain, and the acquiring domains. That's the key concept which lies behind the 3D Secure, and how this is the way the 3D Secure becomes more secure transaction as compared to the normal e-commerce transactions. Taking the same example of how the e-commerce transaction was taken in the normal e-commerce world, same cardholder, for example, goes at Amazon.com. He completes the purchasing cycle. He clicks on the checkout process. For this example, we are assuming that the cardholder as well as the acquiring banks are already registered on the 3D Secure. So assuming that the entire issuing bank and acquiring bank are already supporting the 3D Secure. The cardholder completes all the transaction details and proceed for the payment. When the transaction goes from the payment to the merchant sent to the through the MPI interface sent to the respective acquiring bank, and where the acquiring bank do the first level of check. The first level of check is to verify that this cardholder is registered for the 3D Secure or not. And once the cardholder is registered for the 3D Secure, which has been verified by Visa, MasterCard Global Directory, a payment authentication message has requested, which includes the access URL, means the URL where the cardholder has to go and verify himself with the respective issuing bank. And it responds back with a payment authentication request. Payment authentication request message, which is an XML-based message, goes back to the merchant, and merchant add one more parameter into it, which is known as the terminal URL, which means that the URL where the cardholder will confirm the payment authorizations. And the response goes back to the cardholder. When this response reaches to the cardholder, in a 3D Secure environment, an inline window or a pop-up window will pop up, which will prompt for the added security question or OTP question as an added level of security. The cardholder adds the password or the one-time password or the security question, and the payment transaction will be authorized by checking from the access control server, and the final message will be authorized from the issuing bank, and the response goes back. And this is the way the 3D Secure becomes a more reliable and secure transaction because of this authentication dialog which happened between the cardholder and access control server by popping up an additional window or inline window which prompts the cardholder for the different alternate authentication method. I will take you to the example what are the existing authentication methods which are available, the static password or one-time password or knowledge-based questions. So this The idea of giving this slide is over here is to give you an example how the 3D secure transaction works in a normal environment as compared to the normal e-commerce transactions. Now, coming on the main essence of my presentation is how we can eliminate the perceived threat and how we can leverage 3D secure to bring cardholder confidence and drive e-commerce transactions using the 3D secure. So the way I have a structure is that in order to eliminate the perceived threat, which has already been developed, I have broken down into 4 modules. The first module is talk about the strong authentication. We have to increase the confidence of the cardholder that 3D secure is a more strong authenticated method and there is more security check before the transaction process. Second is for ease of adaptation and the liability shift concept, and the last one is the instant alerts. Talking about the first things, authentication model. Remember, I shared with you in the beginning of the presentation, there will be an inline window or a pop-up window which will pop up and it prompt for the additional security questions. And that additional security question could be of a static password. A simple password which was entered by the cardholder at the time of registration to prompt it again during the inline or pop-up window to confirm whether the same cardholder who is using the card for the payment transaction. That is one option. Second option is a one-time password option, which the one-time password, or more commonly known as OTP, is primarily used by most of the banks, and this is more new technology which is being adopted by the banks because every time the cardholder do a transaction, there is a new one-time password will be transmitted to the cardholder, either a mobile channel or some different alternate way. So there's a two-factor authentication into it. And the final authentication method, which is also being used by some bank, is a knowledge-based authentication. Based on the information or the customer database which is available with the issuer card scheme can come up with a random customized solution, customized knowledge-based questions. So it could be a random question. It's more related to the data which is available by the banks for that particular cardholder. So the first step that we discuss about how we can eliminate the perceived threat is about the authentication, how we can emphasize that the security secure is more secured and there is a more strong authentication method involved in it, and there is a very least possibility that the card can be used for the card cannot be misused for a card not present transactions. The second step when we talk about is more about a liability shift. At one time, we are increasing the cardholder confidence on the issuing side. We are saying we are communicating to the cardholder that is for whenever they go for a 3D secure transaction, this is more secured, this is more reliable, and there are really less possibility for going for a fraudulent transaction. The initiative that we have to take about is about the liability shift to bring confidence on the acquiring side as well. If you look into this overall pie chart, the bigger pie is talking about all the card which are issued but they are not using online. The second is a factor which is primarily those cards which are issued but they are being used as internet as a normal e-commerce transaction but not as a 3D secure transactions. So these are the card holder who are either the issuer or acquirer who are using for the e-commerce transaction, but they are not registered for the 3D secure. And as per the Visa and MasterCard, these cards are defined as Visa defined as the ECI indicator 7 transaction. And in both of these environments, where the transaction is not used as a 3D secure, the liability, if there's any fraud happening, goes to the merchants. The remaining pie has been divided into those transactions which are done on the 3D secure, either issuer or acquirer on the 3D secure, but without password, which means the merchant side is on the 3D secure and the card issuer is not on the 3D secure. So such type of transaction are classified as ECI 6 for the Visa and ECI 1 for MasterCard. And the final piece of this pie is those card transactions which are done on a totally 3D secure environment, which is a fully authenticated transaction in which the issuer and acquirer both are on 3D secure. And these are classified as ECI 5 and ECI 2. And these are the two areas in which when either if one of them, the issuer or acquirer, are on the 3D secure, the liability shifts from merchant to the issuer. And this is the main benefits. So if either of the party is on a 3D secure, the liability goes to the issuers. And interestingly, when we talk about the analysis about what is that the spending trend, the transaction which are done with ECI 7 indicator has the lowest volume, which means that the transaction which are done as a non-3D secure transaction, as normal e-commerce transaction, they have a less spending average ticket size. Whereas the fully authenticated transaction has a higher value, which is almost a double of what the transaction amount is for the normal e-commerce transactions. And in addition to this, there are some chargeback right. For example, merchant will no longer be liable for the chargeback relating to the authentication disputes with reason code 83 and 75. This is more on the operational side. The third step that we have to take about for the elimination of the perceived threat is the ease of adaptation. Because we are not introducing a new technology to the cardholder, we are changing their consumer behavior. We are changing the way they do the transaction right now. We are asking them to go from the go to the internet, away from the POS and ATM, do the transaction online. And for the existing cardholder, who are doing the transaction over internet, we are asking them to register themselves and get an added value of security. So the ease of adaptation comes with the ease or the most friendly, user-friendly lens, how easily the customer can adopt this service. So traditionally speaking, there are two ways. For the one is the pre-registration way. The customer cardholder can register them for the 3D secure transaction. Another one is the activation during the shopping. I will take you through the activation during the shopping phase. The pre-registration process is very simple and clear that the cardholder has to register himself for the beginning of the at the time of the registration. So ADS, or most commonly known as activation during shopping, works at a time when the cardholder is doing a transaction. For example, taking an example that the cardholder is doing is purchasing the electronic item from the internet. At the time of completing his checkout process, he will enter all the shipment details, all the relating information, and then he will proceed for the checkout counter, either verify by Visa for Visa or MasterCard secured code for secured code. Once he proceeds for the checkout counter, cardholder will be identified that in this particular example, this cardholder is not registered for the 3D secure. So the merchant website will prompt a screen that the cardholder to register for the 3D secure by entering a basic information about the card. And this is a one-time card registration. He only have to do registration with 3D secure for the one time only. Once cardholder register himself by entering all the details which was printed on the card, the registration screen will ask for one more question. Assuming this is a static password option, it will ask to enter a secure password which will be prompted at the time of shopping. And then re-enter the password, and one personalized greeting message will pop up at the time of the transaction screen when he will be authenticated for the transactions. So this level of security and this level of ease of adaptation gives an added benefit to the cardholder because it is activation during the shopping, which means cardholder does not have to go to the bank website, or he don't have to physically visit a branch or go call to the call center. He will be registered while the transaction is even happening. And this activation during the shopping will lead to the immediate benefit of the spend of the card on the internet, because the moment the card is registered, the next step will follow to complete the transactions. And once the cardholder is verified and registered, the next step will be to complete the transaction payment cycle. The final step for the elimination of the perceived threat is the instant alert. This very simple and powerful, but it brings an added level of customer confidence and added level of security and peace of mind for the cardholder that whenever a transaction is done over the internet, he will be immediately notified. This is most of the banks are already using for this for the normal POS transaction and ATM transactions. So till now, we have discussed about the basics of the 3D secure, how the 3D secure works, what is the market overview, and I have also taken you through the area where how we can eliminate the perceived threat, which already been developed for the e-commerce transaction. And now, final part of my presentation, I will take you through how we can build retention around 3D secure, and how we can leverage 3D secure to bring more reward and incentive to the cardholder. When we talk about bringing the retention, we have to focus on the 4 area. The first area is the first-time activation incentive. What the card holder is getting when he's doing the 3D secure transaction for the first time. What is the value for the card holder to do a 3D secure transaction? Second is the reward incentive. If the card holder is already registered for the 3D secure, what is the added value that he will get for the next time transaction? Is there any reward mechanism or built around the 3D secure transaction? And what happens if the cardholder does not do a 3D secure transaction and go for a standard e-commerce transaction? And the other 2 areas on which we have to focus to bring retention is to capture the recurring payment volume. For example, the school fee, class fee, and the payment which are happening on every month. And the cardholder has to do these payments through other alternative mechanism. And the final one is a personalized marketing, or you can use a 3D secure as a cross-sell tool. So coming on the first thing, most of us are already familiar with the inline window and pop-up window, which pops up and prompts for the password and one-time password or personalized message. And that is only used as a security window. What we can do about this, the way we can use this screen, that we can give a customized message to the cardholder as well. If the cardholder is not registered for the first time, we can build in an interface that for the first time registration, the cardholder will get, for example, a 5% cashback for the transaction. We can place a URL over there that if the cardholder want to proceed with that offer, then this URL will immediately take them for the registration screen that I showed in the earlier. The another one, which is not quite visible over here, what I have mentioned over here, just that if you don't want to proceed with a 3D transaction, it says ignore and stay unprotected. So you are saying I'm happy, the cardholder is saying I'm happy, I don't want to complete the 3D secure possession, and he's also acknowledged that I will remain unprotected. So this is the way that how we can use the inline window or pop-up window to prompt the cardholder to register themselves for the 3D secure transactions. The second area where we can build reward around it is how we can bring added reward or added value to the cardholder when he's doing a transaction over the internet. For example, in this online pop-up window or inline window, what we have done, that the cardholder will be prompted for the transaction whether he want to use the reward point for this particular transaction, or he want to use from the limit assigned to his card or the bank account amount balance in his account. So we can also use to bring the reward incentive around the 3D secure transaction. What additional that you can think about is adding additional reward. When the cardholder do a transaction over the 3D secure, means double the reward point when the transaction is done the 3D secure, and less reward point when the cardholder do a transaction without going through the 3D secure. This all depend how you develop your products and how you communicate to your cardholders to drive 3D secure for the internet e-commerce transaction volumes. The third one is within the retention area is the recurring payment. And this is a bigger chunk of the payment because most of the cardholders who are already registered or who are maintaining a bank account or having a credit card relationships, they do have many recurring payment every month or every quarterly. And this is the area where the bank has to focus on how they can capture the recurring payment. Because once the cardholder has become become adaptive of the 3D secure transaction, the next step will be to capture the recurring payment transaction. For example, in this particular example, the cardholder has just completed the payment of electricity and water bill. Immediately, once the transaction has been completed, another screen will pop up, which will prompt and give the added benefit, which says, for example, it's like double your reward point for the next bill payment. This is a call for action that we have defined. So for the next time bill payment, if you are going to do the 3D secure, you will get double your reward point. And you can also set a reminder by mentioning your email ID and a brief registration that for the next bill payment, you will be immediately notified by sending a URL and an email, and that URL email will take you to the bank site to complete the internet transaction. So there are many things that we can do within the 3D secure, and you can use this as a pop-up on inline window to do not only the activation or reward incentive, but also to capture the cross-sell by giving a personalized messages For example, in this particular example, the way the cardholder has been notified that after the payment has been completed and the transaction has been completed, another pop-up window will pop up and will based on the cardholder profiles and the transaction history, it will come up with a personalized message. It's not a generic message that every cardholder will the same message. It will be based on the data and analysis which is available the issuer. The issuer can give a personalized messages or cross-sell messages to the cardholder to cross-sell their products. So the main idea to build around the 3D Secure, what I have shared in this presentation is to keep the cardholder away from the threat element, because we have already built several threats about the e-commerce transaction, what can go wrong. Now this is the time that we have to eliminate these perceived threats, and at the same time we have to bring more loyalty and retention towards the e-commerce transaction by providing the value-added service and the benefit to the cardholders that we have. And believe me, these are the couple of them that we have shared. And with the issuer, we can talk about more value-added benefit and more attractive things that can drive the e-commerce transaction to the 3D Secure. So before proceeding towards the Q&A session, just to give you a quick overview about the TSYS. We are one of the leading payment processing company in the world. On an average, every day we process 38 million transactions each day. We have a resource of more than 8,000 people globally and 3,000 outside US, and we have more than 400 clients directly processing in more than 85 countries over there. And the way that the TSYS can support your business on the issuing side and acquiring side is we have access control solutions that we are providing to our clients with our partnership with Arcot Solutions. So we provide a complete end-to-end services for the access control services to enable our issuer and acquiring bank for 3D Secure transactions. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.